Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. So, I have a lot of stuff going on today. I'm super excited to be talking to you guys. I have many things on my plate. Before I get into today's podcast, I did open the enrollment for my psychicabilityclass.com. There's a website, psychicabilityclass.com. And we always get so many cool students in there, and they're so excited to learn, and the class has been tremendous. It's been a huge success. It took a lot longer to open it this time than I had wanted to, but if you're interested, definitely check that out because it's only open for not very long, like 10 days or something. The next thing that I have going on is for you guys who've been listening to my podcast for a really long time. I am super excited to let you guys know that I'm doing a new podcast website. And then this website, you will be able to have access to my free podcasts, but you will also be able to have access to my premium podcast and become a Spirit Chat member. And so I'm super excited about that. It's going to be easy to navigate. It's going to have a lot of cool stuff on there. And then the next thing that I have going on, I told you guys I am very busy. I will be doing a webinar on dreaming. I get a lot of questions about the dreaming stuff, and I thought that'd be a good one to do a webinar on. And I'm going to do something different on this webinar. I'm going to do it more like my Spirit Chats. I'm going to not have the slides up this time, so it's going to be more like we're talking to each other. You can ask questions, and I think that there's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on with that webinar. So I don't have that registration page up quite yet, but I will later today. So if you're on my email list or on my Facebook groups or anything, the webinar link will be posted there. If not, you can get on my email list by going to www.keystothespiritworld.com. And I have this super awesome chi meditation on there that people love. This meditation. This meditation's been downloaded over like 10,000 times. It's incredible the response I've gotten from that. So you get a free meditation, get on my newsletter, whatever. So today I've been getting some questions on this. So today we're going to address 6 things that will hinder your spiritual growth. So some of you in my group, my Higher Purpose Learning group, and then some people have emailed me every once in a while, not my students, but some other people who are just learning their spiritual journey. They're just gathering knowledge. They're learning about spiritual development. They're learning what their spiritual body is and different things. Sometimes when they research and study, and I suggest that if you are a beginner and you're listening, you definitely want to just grab all the information that you can from everywhere. You want to be a sponge. And by a sponge, I mean it's not usually like you're going to sponge up everything for 2 weeks. You're going to be sponging for years. You're going to become a spiritual sponge. And that's a good thing. You want to read everything you can get your hands on. You want to listen to anything that you get your hands on. So this is like a super cool, good idea. But one thing that happens when that happens is a lot of people sometimes or often will become stuck and feel like that they're that their spiritual growth is being hindered, And so I've put together 6 of the top things that will hinder your spiritual growth. And so if you're having issues, this is going to be an interesting podcast for you guys. You might find that you're having trouble with one of these areas. It might be like, oh, that's why. That makes sense. So 6 things that will hinder your spiritual growth. Number 1 is going to be one that don't roll your eyes. I can already feel it coming. But I'm going to explain this in more detail, so that's why I want you to listen to this. Neglecting your physical health and well-being. The reason that happens is actually going to tie into number 2, which is what I get asked about often. So I'll get to number 2 in a second. When you neglect your physical health and well-being, but you're trying to go on a spiritual transformation, a spiritual journey, and you're wanting to try to develop to the best of your ability, you're wanting to try to really tune into the energies around you, learn about your spiritual body and how that should be enhancing your life. The problem with neglecting your physical health is your brain many times will focus on physical aspects because you're not necessarily feeling your best. So I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again. One of the primary number one things that you must do in order to advance your spiritual growth is you need to learn to tune into your spiritual body and how that feels. However, if you neglect your physical health, and you start having aches, pains, your stomach doesn't feel well, you're tired just from not having good blood sugar or some other physically draining things, thyroid issues, diabetes, just being physically drained because maybe you're not getting enough exercise, or your weight is causing you to feel tired, etc., then what happens is your brain will concentrate on a lot of your physical ailments and how your physical body is feeling. This will cause a problem with separation and with you being able to navigate between your spiritual body and your physical body. So your brain will primarily keep going to the area that you're being directed to the most, because especially if you're having any type of pain that draws your attention, or any type of exhaustion that draws your attention, or your brain, it will become a fight with your brain. You will be essentially fighting with its attention to your two different bodies. It's going to want to just try to figure out things with your physical aspect of who you are and what's causing you to feel uncomfortable, versus trying to sort out feeling your spiritual body. So pain, exhaustion, etc. from your physical body will overpower and overwhelm your senses when it comes to your spiritual body. So that can definitely be something that hinders your spiritual growth. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot grow spiritually if you have health issues, or if you're feeling like you might be heavier than you normally are comfortable being, or that you're have any ailments. That absolutely doesn't mean that you cannot go ahead and develop into having this wonderful relationship with your spiritual body and your spirit, and and advance your abilities to the highest level that you feel you can. That doesn't mean that. But for some people, it will become difficult. That's not all people. This is just one thing that can hinder your spiritual growth. It's just something that it depends on the person. It depends on how they view things. It depends on their perspective. It depends on their vibration, which we're also going to get into as well. So if you're feeling like you've neglected your physical health and well-being, or you're not in a good spot as far as physical health and well-being, again, it doesn't mean you absolutely can't move forward and even develop nicely, but in some people, it will cause a hiccup. It will cause a hiccup. And you will know who you are. You will know, if you will be able to tell in your gut, your tummy, your chest. You'll be like, yeah, that's probably me. Or, yeah, I don't seem to have a problem with that. And so I just want to reiterate, that doesn't mean all people. That just means for some people that will cause a hiccup in the road to spiritual growth. Okay, and even even with hiccups, if you are devoted and your perspective is good, you can get over anything regardless. Spiritual growth, if you're determined, nothing's gonna stand in your way. Medications. That's another thing that I get asked about a lot. And I want to kind of give you some clarification on that, because let's face it, people are not always, even the best health people will have times they're not in the best of health, right? Or you maybe had to have a surgery, or maybe, you had something happen to you that year, whatever. But most of your life, you've been really healthy. So, and every now and again, people need to take medications. It's just life. So I get asked about that one a lot, though. Will my medications hinder my spiritual growth? Well, here's how you can tell. It depends on the effects that it's having on you specifically as a person. So, if you're taking medications and you're feeling clear-headed and you're feeling energetic and you're feeling like it's not really messing with, not making you feel numb, you're still feeling mostly like yourself, then it is not going to hinder your spiritual growth. However, if you're taking medications that make you feel not so much like yourself, if those medications make you feel kind of out of body or out of touch, if those medications make you feel cloudy or not very clear-headed or forgetful, those types of medications, and again, that will vary per person, because you can have 10 people taking the same medication, and half of them might be fine and the other half it might not resonate very well with, and that again depends on how your specific body type reacts to different medications, etc. That's something that again you will know if this is you. Are you feeling clear? Are you feeling mostly like yourself? Or are you feeling just cloudy and things feel difficult? You're feeling out of body. If you're feeling not so good on the medications, not so clear and not so much like yourself, then yes, that will be another factor that will hinder spiritual growth. The next thing is no consistency and this is number 3, no consistency and no system in place. That will hinder your spiritual growth. This one applies to most everybody, a lot of people. There are systems to learning, even the number one thing that I talk about, which is learning how to tune into your spiritual body. There are systems and knowledge that you must acquire in order to really advance spiritually and have some spiritual growth. The reason that I even got into doing what I do is because I feel like a lot of people keep these things hidden. They would give you some of the information, but then they would leave out big portions of it. They kind of wanted to teach you, but they really didn't. And so I would say more than some of the knowledge that's out there by way of books, podcasts, etc., they leave large portions of how to develop spiritually. They leave out large portions of how to accomplish that, and they leave out large portions of knowledge and training, etc. And so you basically a lot of people, what they do is they go, okay, I'm going to learn as much as I can on clairvoyance, and I'm going to learn as much as I can on being an empath, and I'm going to learn as much as I can on, being in tune with my intuition. Then I'm going to learn, and then they think that the more knowledge that they gain, it's all going to fall into place, and this wonderful path for them is going to unfold. And then when they find themselves going in circles and kind of being confused, then they have a different frustration that happens. And why anybody would be going in circles is because they're really, and I don't know if you listened to last week's podcast, there really should be a spiritual goal for if you're learning, and if you're interested in spiritual growth and spiritual development. And that number one goal should be finding balance between your spiritual and physical bodies in a way that fits into your everyday life. All of this should always enhance your life. I don't care if it's intuition and you want to learn about, and clairvoyance that you want to learn about, psychic ability of any kind, your empath skills, your spirit. You just want to be in tune with your spiritual body. You want to, learn to be more Zen through meditation. The number one thing that all of this stuff should be doing is it should be enhancing your life, your everyday life, not like okay, it's going to enhance my life on Tuesdays because that's when I'm going to meditate with my meditation group. Like, no, it should enhance your life every single day. It should really make you feel like, wow, this is a part of me I've been missing. I'm feeling like I'm pulling it in my life and being able to direct it better. And this feels good, that's how it should be. So in order to do that, you have to learn a system and how that you integrate all of this knowledge into your everyday life. Why do you have this knowledge? Where should you be integrating it into your everyday life? Where? And so I teach a lot of that, and that takes a little bit more training. If again, I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, if whoever's interested, right now you can do my psychicabilityclass.com, and we go through a lot of that. But there should be a system in place of where you're headed, where are you going, where's your spiritual destination, and how are you implementing this into your everyday life. That's really, really important, because you want to be, you implement it into your everyday life. You're also utilizing it every day, which means you're also enhancing your skills every day. You're making it a part of who you are. Because, a lot of this, people who come searching, a lot of the people who are my clients, this is a part of them who they're missing this part of them. They can feel it's there, They feel it, like they want to tune into it. They want to learn how to bring that to life and make it part of who they are as more of a whole person. They can feel it there. They can feel the urge to tap into it. It's not just because it's interesting. If you are out there and you feel the urge to just really, you're craving more, your urge is really, you want more knowledge, you want to learn about this spiritual thing, you want to really find out as much as you can, you're intrigued about it, your soul to the core of your being is like, I want to know more. That's because it's already very much a part of you, which it is with most people, but this part of you is coming to the surface, and it really wants to spread its wings with you. It's like a personality trait that you've suppressed for a long time. It's kind of something like that. And all of a sudden this personality trait comes out, and you're like, wow, I feel good being myself. Like, I feel good that I can behave this way around my family or my friends, because this is who I really feel like inside, and I got really tired of trying to hide that. That's what it's like. If you're feeling the urge, it's a part of who you are, and you need to learn how to just have that be you, have that be a part of you. Not like, here's my regular physical life with my family and my friends and my work life, and then here's my spiritual life. No, you can do both without freaking out everybody and them thinking you've joined a cult or something, You can do both, and just in a way that they don't need to necessarily know all the details, They don't need to know that you're on a spiritual journey. That's not something, that's an interesting thing. And I know I'm getting a little off track here, but it's funny when people just feel like the need to share their spiritual journey with like every single person, all the people in their life, and then their spouses and their kids and people around them start going, oh, wait a minute, like you're sounding kind of crazy, and I don't know about this energy thing, and what are you talking about? You just know things, and it starts weirding them out, and then they think you've like lost your mind. This should be a personal thing, and if you want to share it with people, great. But a lot of people who I meet who do not know what I do for a living, let's just say a friend of a friend, I meet a friend of a friend, and they just know me as Jennifer, and they're like, hey, this actually happened to me the other day. I met somebody who knew somebody else, and they're like, hey, this is Jennifer. Oh, hey, how's it going? They don't need to know where my level is on a spiritual level. I'm feeling very happy with it where it is. I don't need to necessarily share it with everybody unless they're asking me. It just is who I am. I also like doing other regular things too. But then the person said, and she's a psychic. And then the face changed. Immediately, the face changes. It kind of drops. The eyes get really big. And they're like, seriously? And she's like, yes. No, but really? Yes. And then she looks at me. Is she serious? It was like, yes. It totally weirded her out and intrigued her at the same time. My point being, when you're on a spiritual journey, don't feel the need to share it with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, because enhancing your everyday life with it doesn't mean talking about it to everybody and talking about energy. It means being aware of how the world works differently than you've ever known before. It's understanding energy. It's reading energy all the time. It's reading people's energy. It's reading the planet's energy. It's reading the stars' energy and how things are working. So that's what enhancing your life with it is. It helps you make good decisions, etc. So number 4, the number 4 on hindering your spiritual growth is negativity. Being surrounded by or being in a negative mindset 100% will affect your spiritual growth, and here is why. Because when you are surrounded by negativity, or you emit negativity, and again, at some point in time, this is just going to happen to you. The key is not to ever be negative, because that's ridiculous. We're human. The key is to mostly not be negative. The key is to be aware when you're negative and how it's affecting all these other things energetically in your life, like a domino effect, and then trying to figure out how to make yourself feel zen or happy again, right? That's the key. It's not that you're never going to be that way, because if you walk out and stub your toe, I promise you're not thinking, spiritual, wonderful thoughts. You're really ticked off. So, but what happens is you're vibrating differently. Negativity makes you vibrate at a lot lower level. And when you're vibrating at a lower level, that puts you very far apart from where you need to be with your spiritual growth in your spiritual body, which vibrates at a very high level. So in order to tune into spiritual knowledge, in order to tune into your spiritual body, which vibrates higher, you can also bring your spiritual body's vibration down. I didn't explain that very well. Let me re-explain that. Any spiritually based knowledge vibrates very high. There's a high frequency. That energy is very high. All of that stuff you're wanting to tune into, and that euphoric feeling and that nice, wonderful, like Zen feeling, that's all a high vibe thing going on. If you're experiencing negativity, you can bring your spiritual body down into a lower vibration. Therefore, it makes it difficult for that spiritual body to tune into that high vibration. And that's where the hindering the spiritual growth comes in. They're too far apart. It becomes a fight, a frustration. It becomes difficult. So you need to learn how to raise your vibration. So that's why negativity, being surrounded by it, even, I'm going to bring this up because even one of my least favorite things that people expose themselves to constantly is Facebook. And I cannot believe the negative vibes that are on there. I don't, as you guys know, I'm never hardly on there, although I do have my pages, I do have my groups. I go on Facebook specifically to address my groups and my pages. I don't scroll through my newsfeed because I hate my newsfeed. I hate the newsfeed. I feel like the majority of that is just negativity, negative people, and people wasting their time doing things that are very non-productive. Every once in a while, though, when I log in to give you guys information and to update some things on there, your news feed will pop up, and I only see like maybe the top one, maybe the top 2, depending on what electronics I'm on. And it's shocking that it's 90% of the time it's somebody going, why do I feel this way, and pray for so and so, and I just whatever. So negativity, whether you're reading about it, you're surrounded by it, family, friends, work, whatever. You want to try to minimize that if you're not wanting to hinder your spiritual growth. This is another one that I get asked about often, and that is life events, such as divorce, or stress, work, etc. So life happens, right? That's why we're here. We're here to learn and grow. It is what it is. So we are going to experience stressful life events. Will they hinder your spiritual growth? Yes, they can. Not that they always will, but they can. And the reason for that is because when people tend to experience life events that cause them stress, they tend to fall into a fear mode. And that will bring your vibration down, very similar to how negativity will. And when you get into fear mode, let's take divorce, for example. There's a lot of stress that goes with that normally. Kids, money, splitting up houses, splitting up stuff, restarting your life. Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be alone? Are the kids going to be okay? There's a lot of stress that goes with that. And so there's a lot of fear that people will start feeding into. Oh my God, am I going to be okay? How am I going to do this? How am I going to move these things? I feel broke now, etc. There's a lot of fear that comes in. So when a major life event happens where you tend to go from the mindset of, I don't know how it's going to work, but this is somehow going to be okay for me. Because if you start looking back in your life, most things did turn out probably okay. If you don't have that perspective and you really become afraid, that will bring your vibration down. Now, usually those life events, even if you succumb to fear, you will eventually come out of that. You will eventually, just like the negativity, if you whacked your toe, hopefully by the afternoon, that you definitely are having a better day. However, do you ever notice once you whack your toe, then you usually go somewhere else, your computer breaks down, and then you go somewhere and you're running out of gas, and then someone was rude to you at the grocery store. It's like a domino effect. That's because of the energy that's going along with that day. So I always try to shift things immediately if I notice that I'm getting, especially if you whack your toe or something, you want to try to figure out how to shift that energy as quickly as possible, because if you walk around being mad about it for about an hour, then it kind of trickles into the rest of your day. But usually with a life event, you may be fearful for a while. It may hinder your spiritual growth, because when you grasp onto fear, you start working with the physical laws again, and things start to seem unrealistic or impossible. You start to fear and not work with universal laws and universal energy in a way that is positive. You work with universal laws and universal energy in a way that is fearful. And so what you start being afraid of will then start manifesting, coming back as in the product that you were afraid of. That's a whole nother show that I probably will get into with my premium podcast. So having life events and having a fearful vibration will definitely hinder spiritual growth. The number 6 spiritual growth hindering thing that will hinder your spiritual growth is bad habits and old patterns. So what happens sometimes with people is they'll go on their spiritual journey, they'll go on their spiritual transformation, and they will run into some of these things. They will run into where they're either not feeling well, or maybe they were sick and took some medication, or they've gathered knowledge, they don't have any system in place, they're around negative people, and then they had a life event, and whatever, that definitely is not a triple whammy, but it's a big bunch of whammies. And so it's very easy to fall into bad habits and old patterns, because that's what you've learned since you have been grown up. That's what you've most likely learned from your parents and your teachers and all the adults in your life. And it's really easy to just be like, no, this isn't working and I can't do this anymore because I'm not seeing anything happen. I'm not seeing any change. I'm not feeling any different. I'm not understanding this. I just think maybe I don't have the ability. I don't have the knowledge. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe it's unrealistic. Maybe what all those people are talking about when they're, transforming, maybe that's not even real. Like they start questioning everything, and then it becomes very easy to fall back into the old patterns of what you did before you got excited about your spiritual growth and spiritual journey. So, and very easy to do when you are running up against some of these things. So, falling back into bad habits and old patterns is really a biggie, and that happens to a lot of people. So I'm just going to address these really quick again. You may have one or more of these things. You may have all of these things going on. Some of these things may or may not affect you, but you'll know just by hearing them. And I'm going to repeat them one more time. Just the 6 things that hinder your spiritual growth is neglecting your physical health and well-being, because your brain feels like it's directed towards the most immediate or urgent matter at hand, which is what's causing me the most, not feeling well. Your brain is directed there, so that it becomes a fight between your spiritual body and your physical body, trying to direct it, and it becomes clouded and hard to be able to tune into your spiritual body. So not feeling well or neglecting your physical health and well-being. Medications, depending on how it affects the particular person. Remember the signs. If you're feeling mostly like yourself and clear-headed, it's not you. But if you feel cloudy, forgetful, out of body, then it will affect your spiritual growth. No consistency and no system in place. If you've been on a spiritual journey for 5 years and you've gained all the knowledge that you can, and you're feeling like you're not moving forward, 99.9% of the time, if you're feeling stuck, it's because you don't have any system in place. You don't know where you're going with this information, and you don't have a system. You don't know a destination. You don't know what to do with all this knowledge, and so you just keep going in circles. Negativity, being surrounded by negativity, reading about negativity, or just being negative. Again, we're all going to be that way at some point in time, but it's staying in that vibration or staying, around a negative vibration. That will definitely affect your own vibration, therefore hindering spiritual growth. Life events, they are going to happen. They have happened to everybody. I don't think anybody's been through life so far without it probably happening to them, if you're listening. The problem is if you start being fearful and falling into a fearful vibration, then yes, it will hinder spiritual growth. And lastly, falling into bad habits and old patterns, because you cannot move forward. You cannot, if you're really wanting to advance spiritually and have a spiritual transformation, you really need to understand, and this is a whole different show, you really need to understand that you're gonna leave part of your old self behind, and that's okay, because you have a new cool version coming, and that freaks people out. That's really weird, but it does tend to freak people out sometimes. They love the feeling of, well, what if I change? I've literally had people say that to me. Well, what if I become different? I'm like, well, that's awesome. Because it's not like you're going to become different, someone you don't like. You're not going to hang out there. If you don't like who you're becoming, you're going to change that too. That doesn't happen, but you will potentially maybe experience something different. And that scares people sometimes. And then they go, nope, I like the way I was. And I liked it before I knew about all this energy and knew that all this stuff was going on, and I had to pay attention to all these things, and it's too overwhelming. Life was simple when I didn't even know there was energy waves, and I didn't know there was any attraction, because I feel like I'm pulling in stuff that I don't like and I don't know how to stop it. And so they just pretend like, they get overwhelmed, and then they fall into old habits. And the thing is, again, if you're taught properly, if you're taught a destination and you're taught how to implement these things into your everyday life, it becomes second nature. It's not hard. It's not something that you have to work at and think about all the time. Something will eventually click that when you have the proper knowledge and the proper training, that you will just see things differently. You will just understand things differently. And then you know what? Things get easier. They don't get harder. They don't get more overwhelmed. Something will click and you'll just be like, whoa. This is so much easier than I've been making my life so far. Like, wow, why did I not learn this? Why do people not teach this? I've had people do that as well. That light bulb goes on and they see things differently. And once you get to that point with proper, knowledge and direction, then usually at that point, you will not forget. You're not going to go backwards. You will never see life the same, and you will see it in a easier way. You will be like, this relieves so much stress off me, because now I figured out what I was doing wrong, that was pulling in what I didn't want, and that's super cool. And like I said, we're going to get into some of that in the premium podcast. So watch for that to be posted. I'll let you guys know when the premium podcasting site is up. And I hope to see you guys in class. We have a really good time in class. There's a lot of stuff in there. I spend a lot of time really teaching you guys stuff that some of my colleagues were like, why did you put so much effort into this? And it's just like, because it needed to be taught, that I can't have my students missing stuff. So I really hope to see you guys in class. So a couple of things. If you haven't downloaded the Chi Meditation, go check it out. It's free. It's on the keysofspiritworld.com. If you want to join me in class, psychicabilityclass.com, only open for a short time, and watch for the dreaming webinar, because that's going to be fun. All right, you have a wonderful day. Aloha.